Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Movies. I hope everybody's doing well. For today's episode, I will be talking about the second project of Marvel in 2021, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, as usual, if you guys have not seen it, one, I would absolutely turn off this podcast right now and go see it because it's so worth watching. And two, I'm just gonna be like, spoiler alert, like I'm gonna be spoiling some stuff in this podcast, so in this specific episode. So if you guys don't want to know about it, again, I suggest that you click off right now. But for the rest of you that are staying in here, let's go. So, for this episode, or for this specific series, I thought to approach it differently. Because if you guys know, I did every episode of WandaVision by itself, which was a long process, and I feel like I did spoil a lot in those episodes, so I decided to just approach it differently. Just talk about the miniseries in general and then give you guys my opinion instead of going through it slowly each episode. Yeah, so that's what I decided to do. And so as a definition, I would say that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a mini TV series that came out early 2021, created by Malcolm Spellman for the streaming services of Disney+, obviously based on the Marvel Comics, featuring or starring the characters Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, played by Anthony Mackie, and Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan. And this franchise obviously is, like I mentioned in the first episode, is the second, project of Marvel in 2021, aka Phase 4 of the MCU. It is the second project. Obviously, WandaVision was the first, and then this one is the second one. So, this miniseries follows Sam Wilson and Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes in their progress. Okay, this miniseries talks about progress. We see the progress of those characters and where they came from and how they felt after everything that had happened in Infinity War and Endgame. Obviously, Sam Wilson receiving the shield, receiving the legacy of Captain America from Steve Rogers at the end of Endgame. We all know about that. It made a lot of people mad, which is honestly just stay mad because Sam deserves to be Captain America, but we'll talk about that later. So, like I mentioned, this miniseries has 6 episodes, and it is really, really beautiful. Honestly, it is set really well, and there's nothing I can tell you that will change your mind after you watch it. It's literally perfect. But now I wouldn't say perfect, because nothing's perfect in this world, but perfect in the sense of storytelling. It really shows it has a lot of heart and soul, and it's very different than any project or any TV series of Marvel that you will ever watch, and I will tell you guys why. Because this miniseries, this show specifically, is real. It is real, and it is raw, and it talks about stuff that we see outside of our window. It talks about racism, which is, we know in the US, how that is not just in the US, honestly everywhere in the world. Racism is a very fucked up and very bad disease that inflicted a lot of people, and it doesn't make them live well. Like, a lot of people are racist for apparently no reason, and they hate in another human being for their race or their color or their gender or whatever that is. And it's really, this show has really showed racism in the real and raw way that it is, especially in the US. And like I mentioned before about a lot of people not liking Sam Wilson because obviously, well, you guys knew that he was going to become Captain America eventually, obviously, since you watched Endgame, but there was a lot of stuff that happened before he officially became Captain America in the finale. I will not be spoiling anything. I will not be talking about anything. I'm just going to mention a few things that I appreciated in this episode, and this is one of them, is talking about racism and a lot of other themes. I will get to them later, but first of all, racism and the power that shield holds. Like, not just because of the man, not just because of the shield itself, but the man that was behind the shield. Steve Rogers, even though wrong, and I'm gonna say this and a lot of people are gonna hate me. I don't hate Steve Rogers. I think he's a very good character and he really deserved to be Captain America. He's such a nice guy, whatever. But he obviously did some mistakes in the past, and the weight of that shield has been put on Sam Wilson in Endgame, and I would completely understand the way or what he went through before he officially took the title of Captain America in the final episode. But he went through a lot, and that shield specifically went through a lot. Again, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but yeah, racism was a huge topic in this miniseries. Also, mental health. We all know what Bucky Barnes went through as the Winter Soldier, and how he was mentally manipulated, and obviously at the end of even after he got back and he went to Wakanda to stay there, he didn't get much time because Infinity War happened, which is, again, I will talk about it after I talk about this. I'll talk about it at the end, and how I think of Steve Rogers as a friend to Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson as a friend to Bucky Barnes, and you guys will understand. So the mental health problems that Bucky suffers from, aka PTSD, anxiety, he has obviously survivor guilt because a lot of people died in that battlefield, or to have to bring back people, a lot of people died eventually, so like survivor guilt. Obviously what he did to Tony in Civil War was still eating up on him, and his days as the Winter Soldier, like, he still remembers every single mission that he's ever made, every single kill that he's ever, or every single trigger he had to pull, and he still remembered everything, which obviously is such a heartbreaking thing to see. But mostly what I really, really liked about this, or them telling the story of Bucky Barnes in this TV show, is that Bucky is trying to be better. He is going to therapy, which we all know, especially as a Moroccan, in the Moroccan community, going to therapy is a taboo for us because mental health is not recognized at all in our society, and we all know this. But it's not just here. A lot of men, okay, I'm not gonna, lie to you. In the US, a lot of men, I'm just gonna talk in the context of the US because it's where this TV show is set. In that context of the US, or in the territory of the US, or in the US society, men are shamed. They are shamed for going to therapy, or for admitting that they have mental health issues. And that is a very sad thing. So to see Bucky Barnes go into therapy and he's open about his struggles and stuff like that makes me, as a person who has mental health issues, obviously we all do, whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever it is, every feeling that you're feeling is valid and you have every right to feel it. So to see Bucky Barnes going through that journey from the first episode until the end, the final episode, is one of, like, it is so beautiful and it's so beautifully written. But also, as the journey of Sam Wilson from episode 1 to episode 6 is even more beautiful, because it shows the origins of Sam Wilson and where he's coming from and how he's supporting his family and how he's trying to be a better man, and he's trying to, be in the level of the Shield, or in the level of the title of Captain America. And to me, that is very, very beautiful. We also see another character revealed, which is, I'm just gonna say it because I have to talk about it. Isaiah Bradley, and if you guys don't know who he is, you should definitely Google him. Isaiah Bradley is a story, especially as it is said in the TV show, is one of the saddest ones to ever exist. It just showed the level of racism that existed even before, and shows how the government was dealing with the blood of Steve Rogers, who was left. Obviously, they took samples of his blood as he was doing the Captain America in the first Avenger. Obviously, they took samples of his blood to create more super soldier serum, and that is the story of Isaiah Bradley. I would very highly recommend that you guys go and Google him, because his story is really, really sad, and this show explains it in a way that is really heartbreaking. And if you don't cry while he's telling his story, you're just ruthless and heartless. So I was gonna talk about the friendship, and to me personally, I think that Sam Wilson is a better friend to Bucky Barnes than Steve Rogers will ever be, because he supported him as a friend. He always cared about him. Like, no matter how much those two claim that they hate each other and they don't like to be around each other, they're really good friends and they really, really care about each other. And I love that, because Steve Rogers only visited Bucky when there's some kind of chaos happening. And I'm not trying to shame Steve for going back to Peggy in Endgame. I don't blame him, honestly. She's a badass and he loved her, and I don't blame him for going back. But the fact that he left Bucky was kind of heartbreaking to me, especially after everything that he's been through, and I thought that at least he would support him a little bit before making that decision. But again, like I said, I don't blame him at all. But Sam has helped Bucky through his mental health issues in this TV show, and it is their partnership bloomed to be one of the most beautiful friendships in the MCU, and I really, really love their dynamic in this miniseries. And overall, in the end, I would conclude that this like I mentioned, this TV show is very real and raw and different than anything magical or mythical that, Marvel is usually known for. It is very real. It talks about real people and real life and what people have to deal with. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend you guys watch this TV show. It is beautiful, and obviously there's action scenes and fighting sequences, so you won't feel left out if you like that. So yeah, that will be it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.